Welcome to Rentec Direct's Coffee Break series. I'm Janell, and my teammate Kathryn is here with me, and we're just happy you took a little hiatus from your workday to join us. Kathryn, since you're here in the office by 6 a.m. Pacific time, you're probably already on to like your 10th cup of coffee, right? Just make just make sure you're ready for your questions about bank accounts.
Oh, yes, I'm absolutely have had plenty of coffee and looking now for lunch, whatever that may be.
Yeah, my stomach's grumbly too. So Kathryn, she worked in the banking industry before she came to Rentec Direct. So that's a little trivia about Kathryn, and she's our expert on all things bank account related. At least that's what I call her, my expert. And we're just really looking forward to your questions. And I'm sure everyone that's joined in today will appreciate them too. You know, as a community of landlords and property managers, we just really can learn a lot from each other. And for fun, we're going to be sending one lucky person a gift certificate for coffee. So Ashley out of Texas was our lucky winner for our last coffee break. So let's get started and hit the poll booth. So right next to that questions tab in that upper right corner, you're going to see a poll button. And I've sent you a couple short questions for you to answer. And by answering those, you're going to be thrown into today's lottery for the gift card. So make sure you click on that button there. And while you're answering those polls and typing your questions for us, we're going to look at a couple questions that clients have emailed to us. They do that in advance, and you're always welcome to email us questions you want us to talk about during coffee break. So Kathryn, are you ready to start out the Q&A?
Started, that'd be great.
Okay, here we go.
So Brenda asked if I printed a check and it didn't print the information in the right location on the check. How do I fix it and print it again? So the best thing to do would be, for one, if we go to the accounts tab and we can go into the ledger for the bank account. You find your check that you've maybe printed and need to reprint, and click the paper pencil to edit. And then on the left-hand side, we can change that type to print check. Once we change that type, you can save changes. And then on the accounts tab now, you will see there's one check pending to print. And of course, in that account, there was more than one, but then now you can reprint that check. One thing I had a question actually before we go any farther, and today in support was, can you change the check number? Because you'll notice there in that little gray, it goes to the next check number that after you've already printed all those checks. So yes, you can change that to print just that other check, whatever the case may be, and then just print that one check. And then later go back to print those other 8 checks that you have pending to print with the right correct numbers. If you want to set up to print checks, it's in the settings tab and you go to accounting defaults. And then close to the bottom there you'll see that you can choose your print check style. You can print payee address on checks. And then also, oh yes, the good old alignment that we were talking about, that it printed either in the wrong location. You can change your X and Y axis and whatever that means. There's a cute little question mark there that you can hover over. So it'll give you an information on how to adjust it, either left or right or up and down. So thanks, Janell, for helping me with that. One more quick tip on that printing. I just want to make sure that sometimes it can be your printer. So we always do recommend cleaning your printer rollers because sometimes it might just be slipping.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's a good point too. Definitely. All right, let's see what our next question is here. So Veronica from West Virginia asked if she can have her employee coordinate an electronic payment for a tenant. And first off, Kathryn, I think we should have done our coffee break poolside with Veronica, don't you?
Absolutely. I see that lush little pool right there with a tablet, and that's where I would be hanging out today.
Next month we should do that. Maybe we should go to the beach, although we might get a lot of sand in our computers. Yeah,
electronics.
Yeah, right. But back to this question, the short answer is yes. You have the ability to add in bank account information for your tenant and schedule payments for them if they've given you permission. I think it's just a really good idea to get permission in writing from your tenant if you're going to be the one scheduling payments for them. It's just a best practice, but as far as functionality, let's take a look at an account, and I'm going to show Veronica, how to accomplish this. So we're going to get back into, this is my mock account, and if Veronica wanted to do this on vacation, she can do it herself as long as she has, access to the internet, because she can log into her Rentec account. All you have to do is go over to the Tenants tab. So I'm going to click on the Tenant menu, and then I'm going to select Online Payments. And when I do this, if your tenant hasn't already added in their payment method, you're going to want to do that for them. So up here in the upper left corner, you can click here and you can add a bank account. And really all you're going to need to collect is the, routing and account number. So I'm going to just add in a mock account here for demonstration purposes. And now that we've done that, we can set it as the primary. And then we can return to this page. And here you can schedule just a single payment by clicking on the button right there. Another option is to just head back to the Tenant tab. And if you click on the Post Income button, there's an option also to select ACH. And when you do that, it basically creates an instant payment or for the very next pull time as an ACH draft. So that's the short answer, Veronica, but I do want to mention regarding a sub-user handling this task, because it sounds like you have an employee. First, I highly recommend you always have a separate username and password for each person accessing your account. And each sub-user has their own set of user permissions. So I want to look at those while we're talking about this and answering those questions. So let's go over to Manage User Accounts, and I'm going to open up a user permission. All right. So the first step is this sub-user needs to have access to the properties they're going to be scheduling payments for. So that's the first step. You need to make sure they have access to it. And then what we also need to do is scroll up just a little bit and make sure that this financial access option, allow access to tenant ACH payments, is set to yes. And another option I want to show is if we scroll up to the very top of the sub-user section, you'll see this read-only access. So if a sub-user is set to read-only, they're able to look at information, but they cannot make any entries or changes. So without the override of allow accounts receivable, this sub-user would not be able to do that electronic payment for that tenant either, scheduling that. So I just wanted to, for that instant payment, just wanted to mention that there. A couple other pointers related to online payments. A tenant has to be connected to a property for an electronic payment, meaning that, let me get back here to my tenant tab. If you have a tenant that's listed as inactive, like this John Doe, that payment that gets scheduled is not going to be successful. Also, if a property does not have an address, so if you, for some reason, added a property and you didn't put an address in, also the pull would not be successful. And since we're focusing on bank accounts today in connection to this question, I just wanted to mention, now that we're on the property page, it's a good idea to have your bank account linked in to this property so that it will connect to that. So thanks, Veronica, for that question. I hope that you're enjoying your vacation there.
One thing I wanted to mention while Janelle was talking was there's a couple things that she went over about the permissions and also about the merchant accounts and using Easy Pay. We have some other webinars out there that includes that information. So if you need a little bit more questions answered, please refer back to our other webinars that we already have recorded. So, so Melinda asked, how do I post a credit to my bank account? So in an example that I can use here, in the accounts tab, you can add like bank fees, and we use this as an example here. Currently, Rentec doesn't have the option to post income directly to the bank account. So you would click the red $ to post an expense, and you would post a negative expense in order to create that credit. We see a lot of clients doing this, so they can add like that bank fee, or we call it bank interest, to their account and create that credit transaction?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that it's not super obvious when you're in the accounts tab that there isn't that green dollar sign like there is in the property tab and the tenant tab. So I'm glad that she asked that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that I think Rentec at the time when it was designed was probably just trying to help people to remember to go to the proper tabs, whether the property or tenant, in order to post income. And so I say we try to save people from themselves from accidentally maybe making a mistake like posting income from a tenant, but not associating the tenant with that payment.
Yeah, and this is just a comment that if you do have certain functionality that's really critical for your day-to-day operations, let us know because we track it. And I know Kathryn and her team, the more they hear feedback from clients about needing certain functionality, they do share that with the development team, and that's usually where new functionality rolls out. So good question, and thanks for answering that, Kathryn. Let's see what our next question is. So Michael from Michigan wants to know what the heck is undeposited funds bank account. So actually, it's a question we hear often from new clients. And basically, undeposited funds are just that money you want to record you've received, but you haven't yet put it in the bank. So let's go back to an account, and we're going to take a look at that. So imagine a tenant brings you a check and it's 5 p.m. on Friday and you want to record that you received it. Maybe you need to offer them a receipt. So you post the payment to the tenant's account. So I'm going to go ahead and find, my fake tenant here. Let's see here. So Johnny, let's imagine he comes on in at 5 o'clock and he's going to give me a check. So when I go to post this, you'll notice that I have undeposited funds set as my default account. And I highly recommend you do that as well if you plan to use this. So by selecting undeposited funds here, when it comes time to go to the bank, you'll be able to create a bank deposit. And let's go ahead and post this payment so you can see it in action. So let's imagine he's paying his rent of $1,085 and it's check number 632. I'm going to go ahead and post this. All right. Let's imagine I gave him a receipt. So if I go over to the accounts tab, underneath the accounts tab, you'll see this undeposited funds account. And if I click on it, you'll see all the transactions I've recorded in it, and I can click make a deposit, or I can go back over to the summary page when I first log in under notices, and I will see that I have X amount of dollars in undeposited funds, and I can click make a deposit. All right. And then I can select where I'm going to send those funds to. So which bank account I'm actually going to go to the bank. I can select all of them or just one. Click post deposit and create deposit slip. And I can, again, print it, or I can just see a summary. And now when we go back to the bank accounts tab, you're going to notice that there are no funds left in undeposited. That's because we have now moved them over and we've gone to the bank. And if I open up my bank account that I moved them to down here at the very bottom, you're going to see that we have a bank deposit. Here it is. There were 5 items. And if I click on this paper clip, it takes me back to that page where I can see a summary, or I can adjust the details if I needed to. And if you post your income transactions to undeposited funds, rather than posting the transaction, directly to that destination account, if you do this right out of the gate, you're going to find it's helpful during bank account reconciliation, as you can then, easily match up your bank deposits in both your bank account and your Rentec account. So that was a great question, and I appreciate you asking that. So hopefully that helped you out. Kathryn, it looks like we have a question that came in from a landlord. So let me go ahead and pop that up for you.
Sure. It says, my bank ledger is missing transactions and the balance is wrong. Can you help? So yes, there's a couple things it could be. One is in the accounts tab, let's say we just added our bank account, or we're a new client of Rentec and we forgot to add the starting balance. So we can go into the ledger for that bank account There is a tab at the top that says update balance. So when you click on that too, you can also backdate it. So if you happen to forget it, no problem. You can go ahead and adjust your date accordingly and then add your desired balance for your starting balance on that bank account. Another thing that I would like to mention is that you might have maybe posted something, then your tenants tab or properties tab, it could have been an expense. So we could have maybe forgot the bank, like in this sample here where the bank was chosen as none. So that would affect your bank balance as well. And so it'd be hard to reconcile when you're trying to reconcile your bank account. We've been using words like reconciliation, and I'm reminded, and I didn't plan on all these plugs, but we also have a webinar out there regarding account reconciliations.
Reconciling your account every month is a good idea, because then you can find these errors rather than waiting till the end of the year and doing it. I know I have been guilty on my personal checking account to forget, reconciling it, and then I go, oh, wait a minute. So that was a great question as well. I appreciate those questions coming in. So Jerry out of Idaho wants to know which banks sync with Rentec Direct. And I can't specifically answer this because there are thousands. It's an exception that a bank does not have an option to sync, but there are some smaller local banks that may not offer, this ability. But even those typically offer the option to export a file that can be imported manually for syncing up transactions. So if you're interested in this feature, just know that one way or another, you're going to be able to go through it. Because I'm unable to demonstrate the actual sync, since it will require, a live bank account, and, that would be private information. What I can do is explain the steps. And if you click on the Need Help button at the top of your program and just enter the subject Bank Sync, you're going to see both the automated and manual sync instructions. But let me give you just a visual here. So first, you're going to go to the Accounts tab, and in the Account menu, you're going to select Sync with Bank. And then next, you'll link your accounts and enter your username and password. And just keep in mind that the login credentials are provided by your bank, and they may be different than what you normally use for, logging into your account online, just to do, pull up a statement. So I highly recommend you talk to, your online banker rather than just say general customer service, just to be sure you receive the best information possible. Also, ask them if your bank charges a fee for this, because I know some banks do and some don't. We do not charge, meaning Rentec does not charge a fee for this option in your software. It's just part of it. So ask that question so you don't have any surprises on your, your monthly statement. Once you've synced, the most recent 30-day transactions are going to be available to you. Your Rentec software is going to attempt to retrieve historical transaction, but your bank is going to determine how far back those transactions are accessible. So typically you can pull up to 2 years of transactions. That's what we see for most clients and most banks. So if you want, you can bring in, a lot of history. But keep in mind, if a transaction is not in your Rentec account before you do that sync, you will be able to create a new transaction at that time and classify the details of that transaction. So if you're bringing in 2 years of transactions that are not in Rentec, you're going to be, busy entering those new entries. And maybe that's your goal. So just as a side note, we get asked by clients if the bank sync tool will work with a credit card account. And, the answer is the same as it is with a bank account. Most of them do. I just wanted to, give a thank you for, our awesome clients out there for sending us these questions. I see that we have some more questions coming in, so keep them coming. If you have some burning questions you're wondering about, we want to hear them. Kathryn, do you want to take that next question that someone sent over?
Sure. Candace wants to know what's the difference between a bank sync and a bank reconciliation. So We just went over the little bit about the bank sync, but bank sync to me, I always call it more of a check and balance. So Janelle showed you how you can upload your transactions and you can match them. I think it would be a good tool to use prior to maybe your bank reconciliation. Your bank reconciliation would be like at the end of the month, you know, your bank sends you your statement and it's now time to reconcile what's in Rentec, which is mainly like your check register, and what's on your statement in order to balance. So bank sync is just to confirm that the transactions indeed have been added into Rentec, and then your final would be the bank reconciliation with your bank statement.
Yeah, excellent. And I like that question because they sound like they may be synonymous, like they're the same term, but they are a little different. So thanks for asking that, Candace. I have a question that came in here. I'm reading. Shannon asked if she has to have a separate bank account for security deposits. So the answer to that question, Shannon, is twofold. So as far as Rentec is concerned, no, you do not have to. But the real question I would ask is, does your state or local laws require you to do this? So Kathryn and I and the rest of the Rentec team, we're here in Oregon, and here we do have to hold tenant security deposits in a separate bank account. And if you do have a separate bank account for deposits, you're going to want to replicate that in your software. So if you have one, add in a separate bank account like I have displayed here for tenant security deposits. And I say regardless of the laws, I think it makes it easier for you to find security deposit payments, do reconciliation if you have it in a separate account. So that's a question for you to chew on, Shannon. If one, does your state require it or your local area? And two, do you want to have that ease? So Kathryn, do you have any other questions that came over to you?
Yeah, there was one more question I have here that says, is there a way to sync the bank account to QuickBooks? Currently, what we have is called an importing tool. And so you can either download your ledger, your bank account ledger in CSV, or you can always go to the reports tab, financial reports, choose your bank account. And then we have oops, we're on the wrong tab there. There you go. Thank you. Financial reports, and go to account ledger B. It's available in Excel, which is also can be downloaded into CSV, and it's recognizable by QuickBooks. QuickBooks has importing tools that are really cool that you can use on their side. So we have found that this has been the most simple way for people to extract data from Rentec and put it into their QuickBooks if needed.
It's like I heard about it more when I first started with Rentec many years ago, and I think that's before people realized that they could handle a lot of their financial transactions in property management software. They thought of it more like just a tenant tracking, but still there are people who use QuickBooks for their accounting. So I appreciate that question that came in.
Yeah, and they can still use Rentec and manage their bank accounts in Rentec, and maybe they're just submitting this to their accountant. So it's a really easy option to use for your accountant, and they'll be very happy that you're able to extract that data for them, and they can use it in their QuickBooks if needed. So.
Yeah. And if we have any new clients here, I wanted to just point out, if you click on the need help, you can just type in a subject like QuickBooks. Let's just go ahead and enter that QuickBooks here. And you'll see that there's a how-to article. So check that out if you ever are just curious about a question and you don't have time to call into your client success team. So I have one more question. It looks like I have time to answer. It looks like Darian has asked, is there a bank account reconciliation report I can print? So the answer is yes. And if you have already done your bank account reconciliation, under your Accounts tab, if you click over on the menu for your bank account, so that little icon below the balance, and you head on down to Notes and History, you're going to see, here's one right here. It says reconciliation completed here on June 6th. And if I click on it, it opens up a PDF or downloads a PDF that then you can open up and you can view it and you can print it. So that again is available back under your Accounts tab. And for those of you who haven't done bank reconciliation, read the instructions for it. But at the very top of your account, there's the reconciliation button where you start the process. So thanks, Darian. I appreciate that question. It doesn't look like any more questions have come in, but I really appreciate them. Those were great questions, and I've really enjoyed, having all of you here with us for our coffee break. And remember, we're going to be randomly choosing one of you as our coffee break winner, which means coffee is on us. So you might check our Facebook page. So Rentec Direct has a Facebook page where we post, just fun snips and educational articles too. So check there and see who the lucky winner is.
You all for joining us today, and we want to invite you to the next future coffee breaks. The next one will be July 24th, and we're hoping that we get some more participation, and we really enjoy meeting and just kind of chit-chatting and keeping it casual. I enjoy it anyways. How about you, Janelle?
Yeah, I definitely do. It's a nice, it's still, we're still helping and learning from each other, but it just makes it a little more casual. So I wanted to just mention Kathryn and her team over there are just doing an awesome job helping. So don't hesitate to reach out to them.
Yeah, so we're available Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. You'll see our phone number there on the screen. It's 800-881-5139. Our extension 2 is for our support team, success team. And of course, our email. And if you have any questions regarding webinars, then email Janelle at j@rentecdirect.com.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful day and hope to see you soon.